Hey everybody, I'm David with Bolivar Live. Today we're talking insurance again with Dan Priest from Priest Insurance Agency. Dan, thanks for joining us. You know, we're in the brunt of hurricane season and we've dodged the storm so far. But when I was talking to you earlier, we were talking about lines that once a storm gets past a certain area, you can't bind insurance or change anything. Explain a little bit about that. Is it a tropical storm? Is it a hurricane? And where that area is?
Yes, it can be all of those things.
And it depends on companies?
It does.
Okay, there's all your questions. Now you got to...
So what you're talking about is a binding restriction.
Okay.
And binding restrictions, from an insurance company standpoint, binding restrictions stop this thing called adverse selection. So if you didn't have this, from an insurance company standpoint, the wildfire in California, when it's right at your house, you just go buy insurance that day. And that's really, you can't really run a business that way. There's no way to be profitable, and insurance companies need to be profitable. So what we're talking about here in our area of the coast are binding restrictions when it comes to a storm that's coming or heading toward us. So with us, there are three different policies, right? There's a flood policy, there's a wind policy, and then there's the hazard policy, which you would consider as your homeowners, okay? So for me, it's really all governed by the wind policy, because the flood policy, unless you have a mortgage, you have to wait 30 days. If you have a mortgage, you can get coverage immediately. However, if there's a storm and there's binding restrictions, you can't close. So there's that. So for me, the binding restrictions in our area are truly governed by the windstorm policy. So windstorm stops writing new business and accepting new business when a storm, generally speaking, a hurricane enters the Gulf of Mexico. Okay.
And when you and I were looking at the map, if you were on the east coast of Florida and drew a line straight down to Little Cayman, and then went on a 20-degree west, that came in, what, about Cozumel?
Yeah, so if you know, in a picture image, it's, you know, generally when a hurricane enters the Gulf, that's it. The numbers are, it's like the 80-20 rule, you know?
Yeah.
It's 80 degrees longitude and 20 degrees latitude, and that longitudinal line comes down just on the outside of Florida, vertically on that map.
Right.
And if you drew a line just under the tip of Cozumel and drew it laterally where those lines intersect, that square back up to Texas is where you can, windstorm will stop writing policies.
Right. But for the East Coast or somewhere, it's going to be a little different. That's a whole different deal.
A whole different animal. So the homeowners policies, they can actually, there are companies that are way out in the Caribbean. And if it's, for example, a hurricane enters the Gulf with windstorm, it can be a tropical storm, or just they see a fear of and a risk that would contribute to adverse selection, which is stepping in front of the bus when it's coming at you.
Right. So really, we've been preaching this since April, probably coming into hurricane season. You really need to look at your policy and make sure everything's up, and don't wait until, hey, we're going to have a hurricane in the Gulf next week, and then look at it and say, oh man, we did an addition or a remodel, we need to up it, because you may not be able to up it depending on where that storm is.
Keeping your insurance current is very important. It's hard and it's easy to let that slide. We have been really, I would knock on your head for wood, but we've been very, very fortunate this far, and hopefully that will continue. As we all know, on the coast, that can change in a moment.
And yeah, and it's like, you know, we just finished up Labor Day, and I've been I look at the models this year 15 days out and start worrying at 10 days, and I'm not seeing anything. But even rain, you know, Harvey, we didn't have a storm here, but Harvey and Imelda came through and flooded Winnie and Beaumont and all that. And so it's not just hurricane. You know, that was a low pressure that went in as a hurricane, but when it crossed over us, you know, it was just a low pressure that dropped a lot of rain on us. And down here, I don't think we have to worry as much about flooding from rain as much as we do, you know, the windstorm and that. So if you add furniture, paint your house and new furnishings inside, that can change your insurance because you've got new furniture. If you did an addition or you put a deck on or something, just anything, once a year you need to sit down and go through it with your insurance person and just make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed for what you have. And maybe, you know, I know you've been able to save some stuff on different policies.
Sure.
And so, you know, it's a good time, whether it's with Dan or your insurance, and it's always good to get a second opinion too on stuff. One thing about Priest Insurance is their home office is in Lumberton, but they also work here in Crystal Beach, and they know this. Dan has been through Ike and knows what it takes and what you want to have for sure, because he did the rebuilding process. He claimed the insurance, and he worked with a lot of other people both here and in Beaumont area. So
it's you know, that is important, and like what you're saying, nobody wants to go get their teeth cleaned at the dentist.
Right.
It's not a pleasant experience. But it's something that we have to do. Take an hour out, and if you want to wait till after hurricane season, I say do it now. But take an hour out and go over what you have, either with us or who you have now, and it'll save a great deal of problems later. Yeah, it sure will. And when you talked about, yes, I personally have been through. All of us, or many of us, have seen storms. Our office has been through all of them, and they're all different. Rita was different than Ike, or Ike was different than Imelda, which was different than Harvey, which was different than going back to Tropical Storm Allison.
Right.
So they all, every time a storm enters, they're all created differently, and they all cause a different set of problems.
Right, right. Well, if you want more information for Priest Insurance, maybe look them up and get their opinion, or talk to them about a policy. But not only flood, windstorm, and homeowners, they also do business, recreational
Absolutely.
vehicles, just golf cart, everything. And so get hold of them. You can find them online at priestinsuranceragency.com is the best way. That's priestinsuranceragency.com. You can send them an email. The girls are great in the office and real personable to work with you on what you need set up and ask the right questions. So, Dan, thanks for joining us this morning. Until next time, I'm David with Bolivar Live. Y'all have a great day, great week. Come see us. Shop Priest Insurance Agency at priestinsuranceragency.com. God bless, and bye-bye. Priest Insurance Agency has been located in the heart of Lumberton, Texas since 2001, providing a consultative approach and educating customers on how their insurance works for them throughout the coastal region of Texas. Priest Insurance specializes in the coastal region of Texas, covering home, auto, business, and recreational insurance. With ties to the coastal communities, Dan Priest has had the sand between his toes since 1972, with a home on Bolivar Peninsula in Galveston County. He survived a storm named Ike, but lost his home. With insurance coverage, his family was able to rebuild following the 2008 storm and continues to make memories beachfront. Priest Insurance specializes in the coastal communities, family dwellings, investment property, and business insurance. They've been there. Whether you're looking for or have a family retreat along the Texas coast, investment property, or a business, Priest Insurance would be honored to work with you and your family to make sure you're covered anytime trouble arises. For more information on Priest Insurance and their contact information, please visit their website at www.priestinsuranceragency.com, or their office is open for phone calls with questions and consultation Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. by calling 409-755-7600. Priest Insurance Agency, working and educating customers, making sure they understand and have the coverage they deserve.